Serious problems with drugs and welfare, huge debts and falling attendances. Tonight we ask, is Ireland's greyhound industry worth millions in government funding?
Now, Ireland's greyhound industry has had a torrid time of it of late, beset by allegations of widespread doping and forced to sell one of its flagship stadia to deal with a mountain of debt. It will get €16 million in taxpayers' money this year. So, can it survive? Sharon Ní-Bheoláin has this report.
Is all as it appears on the country's greyhound tracks? Is this the epitome of canine grace and power, or the embodiment of drug cheating? Greyhound racing, tarnished by doping, dogged by welfare problems.
Now we're gone in a complete downward spiral. To me, it's down to how the industry is being run.
Add to the mix falling attendances and massive debts. The questions now are, can it survive? Can a regulatory body torn between policing and promoting confront doping head on?
So if you have a fellow with dope on him going in there racing dogs, there's no hope that you're going to ever get a winner.
And if punters are to feel confident when placing a bet, how would they feel about welfare concerns and shocking cruelty? As a dog lover and someone who's had an interest in animal welfare for as long as I can remember, I've always wanted to get beneath the surface of our greyhound industry.
All things is down to break. A level break, but it's number one getting away. Picture of play going to the first base.
Its heyday seems firmly in the past. Greyhound racing is in decline worldwide. The drop-off in Ireland is dramatic. Attendances and numbers of greyhound owners are down 50% in less than a decade. But it still has a loyal following. They recognise their industry is in trouble and they're blaming the Irish Greyhound Board.
So how would you describe the state of the industry right now?
It's crooked. Everything in it is crooked.
The taxpayers' money is being given to the Irish greyhound industry and it's not being used wisely.
IGB have squandered our money, destroyed our industry, they destroyed our track, and we're here to take it back.
Oh, there is not a level playing field. The small man has no chance.
For Dolores Ruth, greyhound racing is more than a job. It's a passion. She's had numerous Derby and Classic wins. Her dogs have never tested positive for a prohibited substance.
Right now, we're at a crisis. The problem is, one, we have huge debt. Two, we have a drug problem that we're trying to get sorted out. There's been some very hardened drugs used. We need stiffer penalties for the drugs, end of.
Some trainers have multiple failed drug tests.
Disqualifications, especially for reoffenders. And we need more transparency, we need more openness as to, what's happening. When the testing is the lab fit for purpose, we're just in no man's land.
Years of light-touch regulation on doping is one thing, but not being able to detect it because your testing laboratory isn't up to the job is quite another. A report dealing solely with doping and medication control, commissioned by the IGB themselves and carried out by veterinary specialist Professor Tim Morris, was published last July. It's highly critical. The testing lab was just not good enough, suboptimal, he said. The IGB was not clear on what it needed from the lab. They were not an educated customer. The regime of taking urine samples to test for prohibited substances reads like a cheater's charter. It was routine and untargeted. There was no evidence of an intelligence-led approach.
Since the publication of the Morris report, there has been a group established called MIDAS. It's the Management of Specific Intelligence and Drugs Action in Sport. It involves interagency cooperation. The Greyhound Board of Great Britain are involved, the Turf Club, and we've developed very close working relationships with the Special Investigations Unit of the Department of Agriculture. Specific legislation has been introduced in 2016, which has catered for the off-course testing. We can now visit owners and trainers' premises for the purposes of taking samples from greyhounds.
IGB are more transparent about naming and shaming, but they only began publishing failed drug tests in October 2015. The 15 months of results since provide a worrying snapshot. There are 15 different substances here, just shy of 70 adverse findings.
My reaction is one of surprise and perhaps shock even, because we see a wide range of pharmaceutical products here, ranging from barbiturates, which slow down the nervous system, to major tranquilizers, and of course we're seeing local anesthetics and analgesics or pain relievers there, which we probably could understand, and then ranging up to the stimulant drugs like ephedrine and indeed methylphenidate, which is Ritalin, which is used for ADHD in human medicine.
In a statement to Primetime, the Irish Bookmakers Association diplomatically referred to historic weaknesses in the integrity of the product. Put bluntly, few bookies believe Greyhound racing is honest. They do say, though, progress is afoot.
Dennis Mitchell. Got away, Johnson's got the flyer of a start. Where's Lewis?
The 100 metres final of the Seoul Olympics. Within 48 hours, Ben Johnson has gone from hero to zero. Stanozolol was the drug of choice. Nearly 3 decades on, it's still in use, even in the canine world.
Stanozolol is an anabolic steroid. It's a metabolite of dihydrotestosterone. It would enhance your muscle mass, it would reduce body fat, it can have a favourable effect on the blood count as well.
The William Hill Greyhound Derby, that's it, we're off. And
the UK is hallowed ground for Irish trainers. April 2014, Keirate King is part-owned and trained by Irishman Pat Curtin.
But he's put in a very impressive display.
He wins, but elimination follows after the dog is tested and found positive for stanozolol. It was not Curtin's first stanozolol positive. A month earlier, he'd signed a sponsorship deal with the Irish Greyhound Board, donating tens of thousands of euro in prize money.
Third then, one Belmore Neymar.
The following year, 2015, Louth trainer Craig Kelly competes in the same event.
Ben Belmore Neymar for Craig Kelly, all outers on alerts, trying to lunge.
Again, the dog is tested and found positive for stanozolol and ketamine.
Another one on the board for the Irish, and Craig Kelly, you must be really pleased with that performance.
Yeah, delighted there. He didn't seem to.
Both Irish trainers are summoned to appear before a British disciplinary committee. Craig Kelly said stanozolol had been administered before he took charge, but he doesn't turn up and fails to produce veterinary records. He's fined and disqualified for 6 months. Pat Curtin, too, is fined and severely reprimanded.
And away they go, and Keirate King takes a flyer from 4.
Within 6 weeks of each failed drug test, the dogs are back running on Irish tracks. Keirate King won his next 2 races.
Coral Sky, the leader, took Belmore Neymar flying up.
Belmore Neymar won his next 3. Studies have been done on the effects of anabolic steroids. Even brief exposure may have long-lasting, possibly permanent performance-enhancing effects. Here, a horse is banned for life if illicit anabolic steroid use is discovered. But what about the IGB lab? Both dogs were tested on Irish tracks when they returned from the UK. Belmore Neymar once, Keirate King twice. Their tests were clean. In his report, Professor Morris said important doping agents such as stanozolol couldn't be detected by the National Greyhound Lab, as the techniques and equipment couldn't detect low enough amounts of the substance's metabolites. That's about to be rectified, says the IGB, with this new €400,000 state-of-the-art analyser operational this month. Has there ever been a situation where an Irish trainer or greyhound owner was sanctioned in the UK and you followed up with the sanction here?
No.
The IGB denies in any event that stanozolol is commonly abused here.
We've had 11 cases of stanozolols deliberated by the Control Committee in the past 3 years. I can advise that 9 of those cases were related to one trainer.
Anyone looking to get a cheating edge doesn't have to look too far. The internet is teeming with sites selling performance enhancers. We ordered 4 products, all illegal here. They arrived in the post to RTE. The first is clenbuterol, or angel dust. We have equine growth hormone. This stimulates naturally occurring steroids in the body like testosterone and estrogen. We have cynidum, a steroidal painkiller with a built-in diuretic. And look at this, Numit, another painkiller, but it advertises itself as not showing up in tests. Truly alarming, says vet Peter Wedderburn.
As a vet, I can only buy from licensed sources with reputable products. If I tried to buy products from a website like that, I would be struck off as a vet. I would lose my licence and I'd be given a huge fine. So we vets, we know you just can't do that. But members of the public, well, who's controlling them? You could have people in the know who have information about what drugs have been tested, and they could maliciously use these drugs to dope their dogs with the expectation that they won't get caught. And that's what's really, really worrying.
Greyhound export to the UK is big business. Ireland supplies 80% of greyhounds racing on British tracks. Doped dogs have proven a headache for the British regulator. From the 1st of January this year, mandatory screenings are in place. In other words, automatic testing for long-acting substances.
This helps give some protection to the UK buyers. After 2 weeks, if the test comes back as negative, then they can race, but they cannot race until there's a negative come back.
It follows years and years of Professor Tim Morris and the GBGB warning UK buyers about exercising due diligence when buying Irish dogs.
Reservations have been expressed in the past, and for those reservations, the board, targeted sales. And, we have an extensive testing regime at sales now.
Picking up the pieces after years of soft regulation on doping is a challenge, but so too is dealing with the thousands of unwanted ex-racers.
Very little money is diverted into greyhound welfare, and it's left really to the small charities around Ireland to try and rescue as many of these dogs as we possibly can. But we're fighting a losing battle.
Many more are simply destroyed.
We believe that there are probably maybe 8, 9, 10,000 put to sleep. They can be killed in all sorts of fashions. We've had so many instances of finding them shot and ears cut off and brutalised and drowned and, sold on into a most appalling state.
There's welfare concerns, and then there's animal cruelty.
A tiny pink piglet is lifted out, tied down, its little legs kicking.
This Australian undercover investigation exposed the use of live animals to bait and train greyhounds. Almost 40 participants were charged.
The piglet can be heard squealing as it's mauled to death off camera.
This Irish kennel hand skipped the country, returning to work with a top Irish trainer. Despite a judgment setting out that his ban should extend to every country where greyhound racing is practised, within weeks he's parading the first classic winner of the year. This is him in Tralee, blurred in the Pull and Bear sweater, standing alongside IGB chairman Phil Meany.
The board have gone on record in the past as condemning live baiting at every opportunity they have. It has no place within the industry, and it is a reprehensible act.
The young man's official kennel hand authorisation was rejected by the IGB last month. If this were an industry sustained and supported by those who participate in it, the questions raised might be less acute, but greyhound racing is heavily propped up by the taxpayer, nearly €100 million since 2010.
We've had a very significant decline in the number of people going, in the number of active dog owners, in the number of dogs involved. We've had a decline in the number of meetings and so on. And funnily enough, in more recent years, that's been countermanded, as it were, by increasing government subvention.
Last October, Minister Creed justified this increase on the basis of 10,000 rural jobs.
That figure comes from a report which was done in 2010, which referred to 2009 data. So it wouldn't be 10,000 now.
Greyhound people need no reminding of that decline. Prize money is down and Harold's Cross track has had to be sacrificed to plug a huge hole in the company's balance sheet. This arising out of the redevelopment of its headquarters in Limerick.
our commercial turnover is 32 million. The scale of the debt is 20.3 relative to that. So in any man's language, that's a huge challenge and an enormous burden.
Despite its woes, Greyhound racing has enjoyed steadfast political support. In fact, Swift Starlet, seen here running in her last recorded race, is owned by a Fine Gael syndicate. Is this proof that the industry will endure because it's ingrained in rural society? Or is it truer to say that its race is run and Greyhound racing is a beaten docket?
Sharon Violan reporting.